A beautiful Neely Henry Lake this morning with Mr. Lee Pitts. Now, a lot of folks are probably used to Lee catching a mess of crappie, but today I think we're gonna go find us some largemouth. Is that the plan?
Yeah, we're going to change gears a little bit. Leave the panfish alone for a day or two.
So as we've always been doing with these guys, we'd love the comments, questions. Lee has, he knows these waters well. So while you got his attention for a couple hours here, now's the time to ask him some questions. I don't know how many of his trade secrets he's going to share with us this morning, but we're going to do the best we can. We're going to have some fun out here the next couple hours. Any of the comments, guys, like and share. We are going to go pick a couple of gift card winners for the loft, so we always have fun with that. So the more you comment, the more likely you are to get picked, just the way it is. So thanks for jumping in. We got 22 folks with us this morning. So let's start off with what's the water temperature out here?
Look back there on that back screen. It should be about 80, 82, 83.
Yep, we're about 81.5. Here's the hummingbird back here.
It had cooled down a little bit with these nights. It's felt really, really good. And these fish have just, this whole spring, and everybody knows it, it's been a little strange, so it's day by day, it changes, The water level has dropped a little bit. That's probably pulled some of these fish out of this, what we're doing. But I still think if you hit the right place, we can get a big bite doing this.
We've already got a first question on what's the best setup you like to use. I guess what's kind of your go-to?
With this right here, the water's got good stain to it. You can get by with a whole lot bigger line. I love to flip with braid. It's just something with all the weeds and the vines and the trash that you're going through. It really helps it because, like I said, you're not dealing with a whole lot of line out. When these fish hit it, man, the fight's on because you're right there just face to face with them. You can see I'm pretty tight right here, just easing through here.
Let's show you what he's looking at.
And what's happened here in the last 2 or 3 weeks, you had to really, really just pinpoint your shots. These fish are not wanting to chase a bait too much. A lot of times you can throw in the middle of that tree, and if there's one around it, he'll come get it. You just got to drop it on his head right now.
So you're saying the bait's been a little tough?
It's been real tough. And you can look at it, with a lot of the weekend guys and the people that come out here just to have a good time and play. It's what they should be doing and what everybody's accustomed to. Everything has been off.
Yeah, it seems like I'm hearing that quite a bit on the internet. When we were out here with Pam Martin Wells, coming over from Georgia, she's saying the same thing about the water around her. It's just been I guess it's a good theme for 2020. It's just a weird year.
Yeah, that's exactly how it's been ever since the early spring, and that's been with everything. It's been with my crappie fishing. It's been strange too, and it's not just here, Neely. It's lakes all around, so it's weather oriented, and I think a lot of it, the fish have kind of been off a little, and it's thrown the whole cycle out. But there's still some big ones laid up in here.
All right, what's the lightest weight you use to pitch and flip?
If I can get away with it, you can pitch with a quarter. Here you've got to go a little heavier because I'm trying to penetrate those weeds. And what you'll do if you're too light, you'll spend more time with that bait laying up on top and not getting it in that, you know, in the strike zone where the fish is laying. And they like a little speed when it comes shooting through there. Sometimes if they're laying there sold up, a little bit of speed coming through that grass, they eat it before they realize they've done it.
So what's the setup you've got in your hand right now?
This, I've got a Lew's reel. This is a BB1. You know, it's a real strong reel. This is a Ducket rod on a, it's a 7.6. I like to, you know, I've got a little longer wingspan than most. And with this right here, you can really cover a lot of water right here tight. But too, when that fish hits it, you can get him up and get him coming your way, and you got enough speed to come up there and get him coming to the boat. The quicker you can get him out of that stuff and in the open water, the better your odds are. And I know a lot of people, it's they're looking at getting into flipping, and it's a monotonous deal. I mean, it's not like you're doing a whole lot of different things. It's covering water, covering grass, till you drop it in front of one. And usually you'll hit 100 yards with nothing and have that 20-yard stretch where you'll find a little sweet spot, and there'll be a couple of bites in it. I still like to, even though the sun's up high and it's already getting hot, I like to cover some of these points with that frog just to see if one will run up there and get it.
What kind of frogs you like?
You know, I use the hollow bodies, popping frogs. At times, especially when you go to some of the lakes that's got a lot of grass in it, that ribbit or the zoom horny toad, each day's different. Some days they want that thump and that gurgle that the ribbit puts off. Other days they kind of want this little horny toad where it just spits. With fish being not real aggressive, I've been throwing this horny toad most.
How do you approach the color choice with the frogs?
Early in the morning, I really like a white. You know, it's a mixture. They don't really know if it's a frog or a shad or something flipping through there. But as the sky gets sun gets higher, and you can see right now it kind of bluebird, you can hold a white one up and a black one up, and you really can't see that white when the fish can't. It just matches the sky. But they can zoom in on that black one. They can kind of target it better. I'll throw either a black or a watermelon red or something like that.
All right.
And you can see this water is lower, and what that does, it makes it harder for that bait to come through. I'm staying in the tops of that grass more than getting down in the water where it needs to be.
So I got a question on how do you set a new reel for pitching and flipping?
The biggest thing is, you know, I'm gonna find me something. Even with these frogs, you don't want a broomstick. You know, you don't want something that's gonna wear you out. I can throw this, and you can see how I'm just kind of underhand rolling it, and that tip's soft enough that it can give me the action that I need to get that frog out of there. But I've got enough backbone 3/4 of the way up that I can still pull it out of that grass. I like to a high-speed reel, you know, 6/4 to 1. You can get some of them 7 to 1 burners, but just something that you can, if he hits it and comes at you, you can catch up with him. And a lot of people, as expensive as braid is, I'll kind of have a backer on there. I'll put some 12, 14-pound test on it and get a little bit on there, because you're not going to use whatever's at the bottom of that spool. You're not going to never use it, so might as well back it with something that not costing you an arm and a leg.
I mean, it is dead calm out here right now.
Yeah. They'll kick on some water here in a little bit.
Guys, so we're out here on Neely Henry, and as Lee just mentioned, there's basically no water flowing through here right now. Bluebird skies. I mean, it's a beautiful day to be out, you know, hanging out on the water. But we were trying to find us some largemouth. Guys, keep the comments coming. Like I said, we're going to be pulling a couple of winners for a couple of gift cards to the loft, to the tackle store at Bucks Island.
Pull my britches down.
Uh-oh.
I could see that when I pitched it in, the whole weeds just shook. And when I hopped it up that first time, he just thumped it. I don't know if he's just trying to kill it, but I never put a hook in him.
Do you prefer to flip a jig or a rage crawl style bait?
That as finicky as they've been here lately, I like that rage crawl. It's got a lot of thump to it, but they've wanted something kind of subtle. So I've downsized it a little bit and just put a super chunk on there. It doesn't have quite the thump, but I can get it down in there and just shake it a little bit, and it's just enough action that if they're laying close, they'll come get it. Like I said, that flipping is a different ball game. You know, you got to commit to it and get in there, and sometimes you're fishing for 5-6 bites a day. But you can also, the 5 or 6 that you need, you can catch them doing this right here.
Well, a good follow-up question. What is your favorite flipping bait?
I flip that Jean LaRue biffle bug a lot. Fish don't see that up in here. You know, it's gotten where a lot of guys are using that biffle bug on that hard head out on the drops and the ledges and things like that. But I can pitch it in there in some of this thick stuff, and the fish hadn't seen it. And also a tube. I like to flip a tube. I got a tube on that I'll flip here in a minute. This jig, I've got more wood cover. As you can see, I got a lot of wood cover in here. And they tend to like that jig a little bit better just with its profile on that wood. And I'll flip a speed crawl a lot. You know, if they really, really get where they don't want anything big, I'll flip that speed crawl. You can see that's still falling through that grass right there. Even though that's a big old pile of junk, it's just like a carport. You know, they'll back up in those little holes. And I watch that line. When that line thumps, you better get the snatching on him.
So here's a good question, I think pertinent to the city tournament tomorrow here on Neely Henry. What's your best advice on a high pressure bluebird day like we've got today when it's tough and it's a tournament day?
Well, you can't go play golf because you're already here. Bring a lot of water and a lot of ice and know it's going to be tough, and just kind of get that mindset that every bite is going to count. It's so easy to get lethargic doing this, and instead of really, really watching and hitting those key areas, you're just going through the motions pitching, and before you know it, one slammed it and he's caught you up here, and you got to get down to him. Just kind of staying focused and know it's going to be tough for everybody. Swap baits and colors around a little bit, and just try to figure something out just to get a bite. Even if it's a little bitty fish, if you're getting bit, it's something they're wanting. like I said, tomorrow I already know it's going to be tough. And really, if I don't have a fish at 11:30, I'm not going to worry about it, because when they cut that water on, it's a whole different world. As soon as that current starts flowing, everything changes.
Well, Fred, I see he's asking the question again about setting up a new reel for pitching and flipping. And we talked a little bit about that. Maybe specify a little bit more on what you're looking for. Are you looking for how to set up the drag? You know, we talked through some of the braid stuff, so give us another question, a little amplification on what you're looking for. We're happy to do the best we can to get you the info.
On that drag, if you're talking about that, I crank it on down, because when he hits it, I want to bring that head straight up. And even if he's sloshing, you know, and coming and trying to break water, I'm gonna get him out of that trash as quick as I can. You know, I can play with him when he gets out here, but if he's in there running around, all he's doing is wrapping you up. And then he's got the better option, because he's taking pressure off of that hook, and you're wrapped up in the weeds. I want something that I can really, you know, sometimes you got to cut through those weeds, and that braid will cut them pretty good.
James Camp says, roll a big one, Lee.
I'd like to see one. One moved right there. See them weeds? He might have been running from it, but not hungry.
So when you see that, how much effort do you put back into trying to go after him a little bit more?
I try to watch, like that one. I know he came out. I saw him move back there in the back, but then and you can see the trail. You can see the tips of those weeds ticking. He came on out to get away from it. So really, if he's already rolled out of it, I can kind of leave it alone, remember it later, come back to it. And I'm looking for, see these dark spots right here? You may not can see it with that glare, but there's a big old stump right there. And most of these stumps have got the root balls that come on out, and those fish will just back up in there and lay up against it. And another thing, once they start pulling water, it makes that, you know, a whole lot better than just laying there in slick water. They don't have to lay in it when they're not pulling nothing. When they pull, they get a little eddy spot from it, and it's a great ambush point.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see that or not.
In places like that, I'll come back to, even if I throw like a square bill or something around it a little later. You know, they may really run up there on it and chase it better.
What weight have you got tied on? What weight is this jig you got?
This right here is a 3/4 ounce. I like that little bit bigger. Like I said, I'm punching through some kind of thick stuff right now. 3/8 is what I usually flipping around wood cover or docks or something like that. I got a little better control on it. But that being heavier, it'll pull on through some of that junk. And I've got on my punching bait, which once the sun gets higher and they really tuck under there, I've got a 1.25 ounces on it.
Jamie Collette says, what's up, Lee? Catch one for me, bro.
Man, bring me some luck. I need to figure it out.
Is Jamie fishing the city tournament tomorrow? I guess I'll ask you, Jamie. Are you fishing over here tomorrow on the city tournament? All right, with no current, do you stay in the river or move to the creek until the water starts moving?
Both. If I've got some grass beds and we'll go to some wood cover, I'm relocating this wood. I will.
Biggest catch of the day so far.
It'll measure. I'll get back in there. Even now, you know, on the Coosa, those fish, a lot of them fish will live shallow. You know, they might not even come back to the river. They'll stay in there around those boat docks. As long as they've got bait and a decent water back in there, they just stay back in it.
All right, what's your favorite bait, and what is a good bait for when you have a large amount of water and the lake level rises very fast?
When the water's coming up, I like it, because most time what it does, that's going to bring your bait up tight and everything runs to the bank, and the fish are going to follow them. So once it comes up like that, for one, you got a whole lot more targets in that grass, because the tops of them where the leaves are, those fish can just back up in it and got great ambush points. I like to swim a jig when it does that. You can cover more water a little quicker. You know, something in a 3/8, half ounce. I like a white brim color, something like that. You know, they're used to the threadfin shad as one of their main forage here, and this time of year too, I noticed we had a big mayfly hatch. So all those little old brim, you know, we don't have them big giant brim on the Coosa, but all the brim are up here smacking around, eating all these willow flies that are falling down. And in turn, those bass are wanting to get them.
So a swim jig for covering a little bit more water.
That and you know, you can, these new swim baits, you know, they really do well in that grass. You can put them on a weighted hook or either Texas rig them, either one. And I like to come through that grass, make a little disturbance and kill it, let it fall down. Just something that they think it's an injured bait fish darting around through there. I think a lot of these fish right now, you know, I've got good depth here. I'm in 7.5, 8 foot of water. I think even though it's early in the morning, instead of relating to that grass, they're just holding back out here. I've noticed there's balls of bait out in that 10 and 12 foot. I think once the sun gets higher later in the day, they're going to tuck in here to try to get some kind of break off that sunshine. And that's when that flipping bite will get right. Any little old patch they can kind of pull under.
Tim Hurd asked, what's the retrieve ratio reel? What ratio reel do you using right now?
I like 6-4 to 1, which that's what this is, just because you can keep up with the fish better. If you got like a real low gear ratio, a lot of times, especially if you got that rod up high, if he comes out at you, you can't keep up with him. And he's past you and under the boat before you ever get a tight line. That's a good looking little hole right there.
Okay, yeah. Fred Reese was asking about that, the drag, how loose or tight on the drag when you're flipping or cast control.
I crank it on down. I mean, I really put a lot of pressure. You know, I got 65-pound braid on right here, and I don't want him to lay up in that stuff long. When he hits it, and like I said, that shock of being stuck, I'm gonna put enough pressure on him right then to get him coming my way. You know, there's a lot of times, even a little fish, when he thumps it, if he's coming up top, I'll cut him a cartwheel out of that thing. Well,
feel free to show us.
Yeah.
That's a good demonstration of that.
I'm ready. And you know, you're talking about the speed, even with a frog, gear ratio, when they're biting and they want it, they don't make a reel fast enough to take it from them. So like I said, when they're on and going, the higher speed reel you got, you know, you're not wasting a lot of time trying to catch up with that bait. I don't overlook too, just the little isolated patches like that. It's got a little bit of hard stems in it. Sometimes underneath there may be a little bit of wood that they can kind of hang on. And I'm stubborn. I know what can happen in this grass. It's hurt me some this spring when they just hadn't been doing it, and I know the caliber of fish that do get in this. That's a chance you take. You know, you hit the right 30, 40 yard stretch through a day, you can get heavy in a hurry.
Well, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We very much appreciate it. We've been having a lot of fun. If you've noticed, we've gone to about every other week with doing these lives and getting guys out. It was a lot of fun to watch a little Bassmaster action last week. Good to see those guys getting back rolling. But thanks for hanging out with us. Please do share this right now, and like, and definitely drop some comments in, and we'll be picking some winners for some gift cards. We are out here with Mr. Lee Pitts, guide from Weiss, but we're hanging out with Neely Henry today. How is Weiss doing these days?
Same as down here.
Same?
Tough. Yeah. Like I said, it's everywhere. It's not just, and Neely Henry's a great fishery. I mean, I had a guy stop me at the ramp yesterday and we were talking, and he was down and out. You know, it's that time of year, and he said, what's happened? I said, man, they're still here. You know, these big fish still laying here. It's a weird situation. Yeah.
They're social distancing from the anglers, I guess.
They're staying at home and staying hid. That's a fact.
All right, let's jump back into some questions. Are more fish in the grass or on the ledges right now?
They're starting to move out. You know, there's some good spots that are out there deep right now. The largemouth are starting to get there. I've talked to some guys there's not a wave of fish that's out there, but they're starting to kind of, you know, trickle out there and find their place on that deeper stuff. Water temperature, it's been crazy, you know. We've had some cool nights. You know, the last 2 or 3 nights, it's felt good at nighttime. And I think that cool water is holding some of these fish that what they're doing, they're just finding a comfort zone. And we've got so many shad right now, they're just laying out here in this open water. You know, if a ball of shad comes through, they'll just rake through there and get what they need. They're not having to really ambush things and fight for it.
Well, it's definitely, I can feel it getting warmer.
Oh yeah.
Actually, wait, is this the a couple of days from the first official day of summer?
I think today.
Is it today? Yeah.
We can go swimming here in a little bit.
All right. We won't do that live. Well, people have been getting on the water, that's for sure, because you go look at our lot right now, and it looks like we're out of boats, because we are. Almost worry people think we're going out of business or something. We got no boats to sell, but we're getting shipments.
Good little hole right there.
Uh-oh.
You're supposed to shake that once and it just boom. They'll start tucking back in there in a little bit.
Well, good question here. Do you prefer to work the jig a lot every flip, or more of an in and out and on to the next one?
I'll give it a shake or two, and what I'm doing, I'm not just random pitching at grass. I'm looking for my creases, the little bitty holes that kind of set back in there. It's kind of like that bass can back in there and he's in a little carport. You know, if he's got a canopy over him and a little hollow spot that he can feel comfortable, I'll flip it in there. Majority of your bites is going to be when it goes through that grass, but I'll give it a little twitch or a little shake. Sometimes that's just a little bit extra that you need to make him eat it up. Like I said, a lot of times they're like an outfielder. They're laying there looking straight up, and when that jig hits the water, he's going to get it.
All right, Keith Baxley asked, what do you think about the 41-pound bag and the one man on the Kissimmee chain last weekend? I didn't hear about a 41-pound bag.
I mean, that's all you can say. I mean, good Lord. You know, when you got to throw that bag in a little wagon and tote it up there, that's when you can stick your chest out, you know. A lot of people, you know, they got some W's, but you come up there with that meat like that, people remember that.
I wonder what number 2 was.
That's the bad thing about that. Nobody remembers number 2.
Yeah.
He
could 40 and a half pounds or something like that.
Yeah, and he still won't be remembered. That's about like some of those early spring Gunnersville tournaments when you got 23, 24, 25 pounds and you all excited and full of anticipation to go up there, and they give you a pat on the back and say, all right, we'll see you next week. Moved another fish. He's just not wanting to play.
All right, what length of rod do you prefer for flipping?
I like a 7/6, you know, something with some length to it. And like I said, even with this, you can see it's a softer tip. I remember in the old days, you know, everybody used that broomstick, but you don't get a good soft presentation flipping it in there. It's more of a something with a little bit of tip that when you bow up on it, you know, you can see where that bend is up there. I've got a softer tip, but 3/4 of the rod, you got room to move him. I like to look for wood in that grass too. Anytime you can get a little mixture, a little wood cover, a little grass mixed up, it just gives them that much more to hold on to.
All right, we've got a comment that swim bait is killer this time of year in grass.
And normally that's what I would be doing, swim jig and a swim bait, except for some reason they're really not aggressive and don't want to chase. I had some fish early in the week. I pull that swim bait up and it, you know, hit the tops of the weeds. 3 or 4 pound fish run out there and look at it and then just ease on off. You know, you'd think if they're going to exert the energy to run up there and take a look at it, they just go ahead and eat it, but they just really didn't want to get after it. Like I said, I don't know why they've been so finicky.
So do you use a different rod, reel, and line setup for a swim jig versus
a little higher speed? I like something, I may go with a 7-foot because a lot of that I'm gonna do some, you know, underhand rolls, and I'm working more precise through the cut. See how this wee bit right here's got a little cut through it? And you may not can see it from that angle, but on a swim bait, I'm not just climbing through everything. I'm kind of using the troughs to let them get a look at it. And I like that little shorter rod when I'm up tight, because I'm not doing any casting. I'm just underhand pitching and rolling. I'm ready to jerk.
Oh wow, Keith said that Kissimmee bag, the 41 pound,
Yeah.
second place was 19 pounds.
Ooh.
That's gotta hurt.
Yeah, yeah, it does. Wow. Come on, baby. That's when you're doing something right.
Yeah. Or you just had a really lucky day and everything lined up for you.
I'm ready for one.
Is there a time of year that you abandon the grass and not fish it?
As it gets hotter in the summer, you know, your window of opportunity kind of dwindles down. You can hit it real early, and what I look for are your points, or when that grass comes out 2-3 feet further than some of the other, I'll try to hit the points in it, or the little horseshoes that come out a little bit, you know, further in the deeper water. But those fish don't hang around that shallow stuff when that temperature really starts getting hot. They back on off of it pretty quick. And the ones that stay there just lay in there to bite in the evening.
Well, kind of along that same lines, talk about the difference in fishing Neely versus Weiss versus, say, like Guntersville in our region.
You know, it's for years and years, when I first started fishing Guntersville, I tried to fish it like the Coosa chain. And there's a couple of times in a year, you know, about March, that they'll get on that wood cover pretty good, and you can throw a spinnerbait and, you know, flip a jig on it. And then again in the fall, you know, there's a few times, but really you've got to, they're two different animals. You know, you can get up here and beat the banks on the Coosa, fish grass, fish wood cover, flip boat docks, and win tournaments. Guntersville is either on those ledges and the shell beds, finding those mega schools out there, or finding that one good grass bed that's as big as a car hood, that every time you come through there, 4 or 5 pounders are going to jerk it out of your hand. And those guys that fish Guntersville, Chickamauga, and places like that, you know, they're great fisheries, but it's kind of a different style fishing.
So would you say Weiss fishes fairly similarly to Neely?
Mm-hmm. And sometimes, you know, they're not, 20 miles apart?
Yeah.
Sometimes there'll be 2 weeks difference in what's going on. Right now at Weiss, some of those fish are kind of coming out of this little funk that they're in, getting some better sacks. That shows you the fish are there. They're just kind of not doing what we want them to do right now. And you know, like I said, this is a long day when you're pitching that jig up in those pretty places and nothing's happening. But like I said, you hit that right stretch and it can be on pretty quick. I know we'll hit some boat docks, you know, here a little bit later, just once that sun gets up and they're really trying to find that shade. The fish that are roaming and cruising in some of these shallower pockets, they'll really lock onto those boat docks. And I fished out wide yesterday with no current. Kind of the same, you know, results that we're having right now. Marking fish, the fish are there, just won't eat, you know, until that current gets to kicking them on.
Yeah, we had a similar situation a few weeks ago with Pam, where it was no current right at the end of our live.
Mm-hmm.
The water started picking up, and that was when she put 3 or 4 in the boat. It was amazing.
And like I said, the fish are here. They're laying in there. I've moved a couple. but it's just, you know, they don't want to eat yet. When they decide to kind of do a little something, you know, a lot of times in tournaments, you'll talk to guys that, hey man, they've struggled all day long and kind of given up, got 1 or 2 fish in a bucket. 12 o'clock, all of a sudden, hey, we kicked out everything we had and got a limit. And then you talk to other guys, yeah, at 12 o'clock our bite picked up, you know, or something. It's just whatever time, and you can kind of tell it all over the lake. It's a, man.
So if we got folks that are looking at weekend plans and 4th of July plans the next couple of weeks, and they just want to go out and have fun catching fish, not worried about tournaments and all that kind of stuff, what time of the day, what would you kind of say to them?
I would try to get out early, because what you got to think about and what's going to happen tomorrow, all your pleasure boaters, all your you know, kneeboard, jet skis, wake boats, when they get out at 11 o'clock, 11:30, it's going to roll these banks, and those fish, they're not going to lay up in there and just cut cartwheels. You know, they're going to get out and back out here off the deeper stuff. So the earlier you could get out there and fish a little bit and then just have fun on the water, you know, don't try to really think you're going to load the boat, you know, with a lot of that traffic around.
Back again. Starting another live feed. Sorry guys, the phone overheated. We're gonna have to figure something out. If we can't make it through today, August is gonna be real tough on us.
Oh yeah.
We're making a little move. Maybe we can find a little shade. We'll go ice fishing in August.
Yeah, that'd be a good break.
Alright. So guys, do me a favor and please share us up again. We had a good group of guys on here.
Got a little shad flipping out here.
Uh-oh. We'll move down just a little bit. Head back down the other side of this little island.
Look, fish running through on those shad, knocking them out of the water. I said, we'll fish some more of this. We may have to back out and get off the break. Changed up color a little bit, see if that'd make any difference.
Well, maybe we can get a fish to just jump in the boat.
Yeah, them gimmies, you gotta have a, every now and then a gimme.
Well, we've had a bird on one of these lives. We might as well get a fish that actually jumps in the boat. Awesome, back with some questions. What brand of swim bait do you like?
You know, that I use them all. I mean, most of them, they got the same action on through there. You know, the biggest thing I look for is the size, swapping the size around here and there. Sometimes they want that bigger bait if they're used to eating on gizzard shad or something like that. You can get by with a little bigger one. But I got on my swim jigs, I use a Talon lead head lures. They make a a real good swim jig that's got a good hook in it. That's what I'm pitching right now, that Big Mama Brim. I got a biffle bug on the back of it. A little bit bigger profile, but maybe that'll make one want it.
Well, guys, thanks for jumping back in with us. We had a little technical difficulty. The phone actually overheated. So we figured out some audio solutions. Now we're gonna have to figure out the phone overheating solution. I wonder if they make a freezer case that I can put the phone in.
A chill pack. Yeah, that water, if it'll start moving, will really help us position them up better.
Well, I have my hat on, Kenzie. My wife's reminding me to put the hat on. I told you. Yeah, I need a hat for my phone. That's the problem. All right, like I said, thanks for jumping back in and hanging with us. You know, we're just out having fun with this, and you know, you have some technical difficulties and you roll with it. So if you're jumping back in, please share it up, and let's get some folks back on, and let's get some questions rolling again. Now I've lost all. I had a couple of questions that were queued up. So if you just asked a question in the last few minutes, then drop it in the comments again, and we're gonna pick a couple of winners. I think we're doing 2 $25 gift cards to the Loft.
Eat it.
And, did you see one?
Just shook it.
All right, Matthew Blake said, I've had most of my success from daylight until around noon. Then the jet skis are out to play.
Yep.
So.
And you know, really on the open water stuff out on those ledges, those jet skis don't hurt you as bad out there. I've been fishing before and a big boat come by and, you know, over the top of what I'm fishing and bust some shad up, and it made the fish start biting. You know, kind of got a little, scattered those shad out and they went to running crazy. So I try not to get too twisted on that open water stuff. Now, I mean, this, you got a little cut right here. Got a log coming out on that grass. I don't know if you can see it or not. But I mean, that's where old Big Mama's supposed to be laying.
So does talking to the fish help at all?
Sometimes you got to cuss them pretty bad.
Oh, you don't sweet talk them?
No. Have to get aggressive. Have to get mean with them. Make them act right. I've tried that big and it don't work. Eat. Need a little current. Look at them. Look at there, look at there, look at there. That's a good fish too. That's all I had laid out was a frog. Man, that's some good. That's a big old spot, I bet you. Come on up and get you another one. Tell you what, while we're sitting here, let me get me a crankbait out and see if I can make them eat something. Another thing, be ready to adapt.
So we're swapping up from some jig fishing to crankbait. Huh?
That bait's still out there, they're flipping. But that was a good one that ran through them.
So what crankbait did you pick up?
I looked in there and the only thing I had tied on was a old square bill, like a 2.5. And it's close enough to the shad they're feeding on. And I know it's hot summertime, and a lot of people don't throw that jerk bait unless it's just dead cold. But sometimes, see right there? Look, they're up top. Oh man. Gotta be able to get bit right here. I know I'm going through a million shad, but come on, baby. Stay up high. Oh, one just jammed it and didn't get it. Come on. 8.
So you retrieving that pretty fast, or?
Yeah, just trying to.
As
they ran through those shad and busted them up, you know, they're running crazy just to stay alive. And so just trying to give them something that they think's getting away from them. But you can tell that was 2 or 3 fish. One of them hit up tight on that point, and then they'll just roll right back off that deep side. You got that split second, you know. If you can get something out there to them when they're trying to feed, your odds are a whole lot better. Just a slick bottom. They just came out of that river, found them a wad of shad to run through.
So what would be your ideal color? You said you just kind of picked up what you already had tied on.
Yeah, it's some kind of shad pattern. You know, I like to have, and that's a pretty good color right there. Got a little bit of dark back to it. You know, those white sides bled in with that dot on it. It kind of gives them something to bullseye, you know, look at.
That's what he had.
And it's the same thing with this, you know, this little jerk bait, you know, it's one of the Strike King jerk baits, but it's got that dark back on it, even though it's fairly clear. They can see that bait. You know, when it's flipping and flopping and twitching. I don't want to let it sit still a long time, let them really get a good look at it. But
yeah, Wes Klein said I caught a 5.28 on a point last week on the lipless.
ooh,
They were busting like this. Fun.
that's a big one too. A 5-pounder tomorrow here go a long way. Long way.
So Wes, what lake were you on? Or don't tell us. That's fine too.
He's like, nope. No, can't understand.
All right. Matthew Blake said I heard an interview with Buddy Gross yesterday. He said they get over the. I'm trying to read my screen. Sorry. Get over the schools on the ledges and cut donuts to fire them up.
I've heard of guys doing that.
Oh, Wes was on Neely. All right. So, Wes, are you fishing? Are you fishing
Where about were you?
Are you fishing the city tournament tomorrow? You may consider it if you weren't planning on it. Did you pick back up that crankbait?
Yeah, there was another one bust right up there. I'm just gonna see if I could get his attention. And hopefully, like I said, those fish, they're right off that edge busting. Once that sun gets a little hotter and they kind of get tired of swimming around, they'll tuck back up in these little grass beds. Looks too pretty.
Well, Wes said he's got to work, so.
So Wes, let's talk a little more. Get off that root.
Oh, Justin Kimmel asked, what's the biggest bass you've caught on crappie gear?
Well, bass, probably 4-pound spots, shooting docks, but stripers, I caught a 31.5 pound on 6-pound test. I had vicious 6-pound test with a Bobby Garland baby shad and a 12-foot trolling rod. Now you talking about having to run one down. I had some luck with me that day to get him up and in the boat.
How long did that take to land?
About 30 minutes. And I mean, that's no joke. We just had to follow him around. Just hold pressure on him and just follow him around. Might not have been that long. Maybe about 20 minutes.
Who needs to go saltwater fishing when you can have that much fun, right?
That was a big one. Come on, baby.
Wes said he caught it on a helicopter lure.
Yeah, I hear you rolling. Boom.
All right, we got a comment. Wish I was fishing right now. I'd be dragging an 8-inch green pumpkin lizard Texas rig. Good luck and enjoy.
Good choice. You know, that's one of the things like we're doing today. No, you know, knowing everybody knows fishing's a little tough right now, but still, just being out here, I like to pitch and flip. The anticipation of me just looking at them little holes in there and knowing that that may be the flip that line jumps. You know, if I wasn't out here doing this, I'd be a nervous wreck helping them boys on High Chaparral today, try to make it through, making sure nobody's stealing no cows or nothing. I'd rather be out here. A lot of these younger guys don't know what High Chaparral is.
I gotta confess, I'm one of them.
Yeah, that's one of those old westerns. Days I'm off, I can catch High Chaparral, and then the Virginian. Had yourself a pretty good morning, you get to watch him too. Helps prepare you for the day. Come on, baby. Man, that thing looks so pretty just kind of hopping through there. One ought to run up and just
can see.
Get a hold of it. You know, and you can see the action. I got that biffle bug on the back of that thing. I mean, those legs are really, really kicking. Put a little dye on that tail, make it look like a little brim flopping through there.
All right, what's your favorite bait for suspend fish?
Oh, for suspending fish, nobody's got a favorite bait because everybody hates to fish for suspending fish. But, you know, I like, depending on the depth, little crankbaits, that DT6, you know, a DT10, something like that you can pick out your depth and you can stop that bait. And it's got a good slow back up to it. You know, something you can get in front of them. Suspending fish are not going to be real aggressive. So the more you can put that bait right in their face, you know, one's liable to suck it up. Oh, that's pretty right there. And I'm still right now, oh wait, that boat goes by. You know, even though we still don't have any kind of water flow, any kind of movement, I'm trying to really concentrate, put that bait in there easy, watch that line. A lot of times you won't have just a, you know, when they're aggressive, it's a good thump and you can feel them, but a lot of times that bait will just stop. It's kind of like shooting docks for crappie. You know, watch that line. If that line does something a little different or twitches or just kind of quits, something stopped it.
Have you noticed willow flies are out?
Yep. Had a real good hatch. Tuesday, had a good hatch Tuesday, and I noticed this morning they were everywhere.
I got a question about where are we at today? We're out here on Neely Henry. I see somebody answered them. Thank you.
Yeah, we're staying probably mid-lake, you know, down from City Park there a little bit. We may bump on down a little further here in a second.
So how do you pick upriver versus downriver on Neely?
You know, if you go up and you're going to fish that main river, you're really dependent on that current. You've got to have water. I know a lot of the guys, dadgum, there's one moving right there. A lot of the guys, they really watch those generation schedules, and they play that current, and they know they've got to have the current for those big fish to bite up there. Down lake, you still got, and like I said, I'm more of a shallow water fisherman. You still got a lot of boat docks, kind of like that little point that we just was on. That's a great place for that bait coming down this river to kind of get pushed up there on it. And in any minute, just like you saw, those big spots, or it could have been largemouth in there too, go to chomping on them. It didn't last long, but there was a couple of big fish that busted in there. It's having that little bit of luck to be sitting there when those old big ones come up and stay for 2 minutes.
Matthew Blake said he had one of the best days of the year, Wednesday, hopping between points near the channel with sparse grass. All right.
Yeah, something to look at. You know, and that tells you they're in there. The water dropping a little bit, you know, last night and this morning hadn't helped any. They have to kind of regroup and adapt.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for hanging out with us again. As I've said, like, comment, and please share. And I'm going to go back in later this afternoon and pick a couple of winners for a couple of gift cards to the loft. Well, that tackle store has been a lot of fun the last couple of years.
Oh man, I'm like a kid in the candy store in there. I just, you know, ooh, I want that. Ooh, I want that.
I personally had no idea there was that much to choose from out there. And
Yeah. And the biggest thing is that you've got it, you know.
Well, I know there's been a lot of influence from a lot of guys like you around this area of getting the right stuff in there. So, like I said, it's been a lot of fun. Eddie Brewer says, check PM. Is that the afternoon or a private message?
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think if it's code. You can see those that log had kind of twist around.
Yeah, then Eddie said, go to work, Hunter. Have you done any kayak fishing?
I haven't. I know that it's really, really growing in popularity. I do a lot of work with Great Days Outdoor magazine, and Ed Mashburn is one of the writers there that he is big into the kayak tournaments and everything down in Mobile. And it's amazing the turnout these guys are having with the kayaks. You know, these kayak fishermen, they can get into places you can't get with these big boats.
Yeah, and there's a lot of cool tournament action going on. The catch photo release thing.
Look at them. That was little fish, but they're still chasing those shad out here. Dang.
Maybe one of these days we need to get you in one of the Jacksons.
Yeah.
Go do some kayak fishing.
And maybe what I need to do, kind of slow down a little bit.
All right. Nathan Zell. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Enjoying the live feed. My best bait in Neely was a 1/4 ounce shaky head with a Zoom green pumpkin speed worm, skipping docks.
That's the next move on those docks. He's got it figured out on that.
Are you a shaky head fan?
I'm getting there. I'm more of a power fisherman, but that shaky head, it'll catch them. You know, when it gets tough and like this right here, and it's not working, and you've got to change up and adapt. It's here's what's so funny, him talking about that. You know, with our next move, of course I'm throwing mine on a spinning rod, but I still got the worm on it and a little bitty, but that's what I'm gonna be shooting those docks with.
All right.
I can do that like my crappie deal, bend it over,
Oh.
and I can get a lot farther than you can with those bait casters, flipping it through there.
Well.
So when he said that, he's on the right deal.
We got about 30 minutes.
We'll fish up to this tree and then we're gonna make a little move.
He said, yep, spinning rod, 10-pound test.
Vicious. Dadgummit.
With these, some of these topwater strikes we've been seeing, I'm kind of anxious to see if we get a bite on that one right there. Do a little trolling as we go down the
Yeah. We need all the help we can get on that. Got good depth here. No reason why there shouldn't be a fish in it. Just no current. Beautiful right there. If I was a fish, I'd be in the skillet by dark every day, 'cause I'd eat that.
Did I miss a comment? I sure did. Sergeant Tim Hurd, loved the loft tackle shop. Appreciate it. Very much appreciate it. Oh, looks like Dano gave him a shout out there.
I hear minnows flipping. Big old ball of bait right there. Oh.
I guess it's a good sign that the fish are here, like you've been talking about.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of bait right here. Nothing tucked in the shade. You know, the one thing I haven't heard this morning, normally fishing a grass line, you'll hear that every now and then where one laid up in there, something's flipped through and he's got him a quick little snack. I've not heard anything hit or just seen very few moving in those weeds.
Dalton Thomas coming at us with Wacky Rig. I think he's a bit of a fan. he's mentioned that Wacky Rig thing a time or two.
It's a great technique.
All right. Getting a little dating tip here. Taking the wife out this evening on Canoe Creek. Any suggestions?
Don't do as I do, do as I say. We'll take it from the ladies' man.
Let's stick to the fishing.
Shower her with candy and a little sip of wine.
So any good tips for Canoe Creek?
Yeah, you know, Canoe has got a little bit deeper water on some of the grass on the far side over there. A lot of boat docks that stretch up through it, and those pockets back and forth through there. You know, a lot of those fish they live there. You know, they're not going anywhere. So I still like, and I know I'm stubborn. We're not getting any bites doing this right now, but I still like flipping that grass. And you've got a great mixture of boat docks in there with it that you can make a day out of it being in there. I started a snatch right there. Wasn't nerting. Sometimes, like I said, they'll just hold it. Won't do anything, just grab a hold of it and sit there like a dog with a ball, just sit there and hold it. There's a fish moving right there in that grass. Gonna be right about a foot in front of where I hit. Just not in it yet. Have we got enough time to make a little run?
Yeah.
Let's hammer.
Eddie Brewer said you got to be wacky to fish a wacky. Dalton Thomas calling us out. Caught more fish on the Wacky Rig than all Bucks Eye Live videos put together.
Thank you for your confidence.
Oh, Dalton. Yeah, I guess Dalton, I just got a comment from Dana over my shoulder that Dalton needs to come do one of these lives.
Let's make a run.
Maybe we could do a whole live on wacky rigging. All right.
Get a little airflow anyway.
See how this falcon does. We got both the falcons out on the water today.
Okay, and see that's really, really good for guys that are going to fish tomorrow. We've just eliminated a whole stretch that you don't have to worry about. Ready to let her loose?
Yeah, man.
All right.
What are we gonna try and do over here?
We're going to do the same thing and hope different results. You already caught them out of here?
What's that?
You already caught them out of here?
I ain't fished it yet. I just pulled up and had a bunch to rig up still. So.
I'll back out of it if you're going to fish it.
You're good.
I may save you some time.
I'm bored as heck. I was just going to go down and look and stuff. So.
Let's see. Do you think you can have too much bait in an area?
Yeah. And, you know, it just, when they know they can just lay there and feed when they want to, they're not going to be aggressive and they don't have to chase anything. You know, we had a few years ago, our winter wasn't really cold enough to kill off a lot of the shad, and it made it tough on us. You know, even with crappie fishing and everything, I could graph fish, big giant schools of fish, pull through them. You see the rod tips just bounce. The fish are just moving out of the way. I mean, why they want to eat that when they can lay up there in them big old balls of bait?
Dalton still at it. Pocket rocket, wacky rig. Listen to me. All right.
He must know how stubborn I am. He'll send pictures today. Look, I went through the same thing you fished and I caught him.
Elijah screaming shaky heads. Tim Hurd said the Nico rig's been working for him.
Don't own one. They're showing me that they're not in this grass yet.
Well, speaking of the kayaks earlier, Dalton is a kayak guy. And said he fishes with Dowie. You spent much time on Wadowee?
Not in a long time. Deep Clear Lake. I know that some guys, they had a federation tournament there last week, I think. And Rusty Burroughs had a good bag of fish. I think he had 17 pounds down there. Some friends of mine, they had a good catch. Roy Gilbreth, him and his wife, they had a good bag of fish down there.
Eddie Brewer says, I do love your live feeds. Keep it, guys. Keep Justin Elliott in check. Can't do much with Justin this week. He took a much-needed trip down to the beach. I think he's down having some fun catching some saltwater fish this week.
It's looking like for tomorrow, the guys that are calling in about that shaky head and wacky rig, they may be on something. I keep trying to
look at the forecast. Is it supposed to be about the same?
I think so.
2
Maybe
days?
a little hotter. I'm picking a thump one right here. That's just too pretty. Man, I'm set up on him right. I'm doing everything the book says.
Wait, there's a book for this?
Oh yeah. Everybody's supposed to read the book.
Dano's let me down. He hasn't told me about this book.
I think the bass never read it either.
Oh. Dalton said he does. He agrees. Love y'all's live videos. He's only messing around, but I have destroyed some bass on that wacky rig. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dalton, we know you're just messing around, but we may not be messing around by getting you on one of these lives. Oh, maybe we get down and do Wadowee one day. That could be fun.
Man, these little isolated clumps, you know, got good thick grass in it, a little bit of depth, not a whole lot, but enough. Am I being critiqued?
No, I think Dano just heard my Wadowee comment. All right. Let me scroll down through here. I think I'm behind on some of the comments.
You know, and it's crazy. Tomorrow, that water come up 3 inches. It'd be a whole different world right here. That little bit of fluctuation, I don't know what it is, but it's on that Coosa chain. It can suck them out of it. little feller. Oh, a big one, a big one.
Yeah, let's get a good look at that, right? Man, look at the size of that thing.
You gotta hide the jig, it dwarfs it. But he was laying there where they're supposed to be and was pretty aggressive on it. We just need his mama to open her mouth. She may be laying right over here. And a lot of times, like I said, just because you catch one out of a patch of grass, you can push right back in the same hole. They may be another one looking around lost. "400 yards of grass and they're in that one little pocket right there." All right, come on, baby. And I know that wasn't a big fish, and I did stick him hard, but sometimes those old big ones are just, and you still want her coming this way. I captured one.
Yeah, man. The little fish just increased that anticipation for the...
Yeah, now it's
one.
on. It's going to happen now. Oh, baby.
Hope I'm pronouncing this right. Burl Gentry. Thanks for doing these. I'm still learning. Grew up near Albertville, but did not bass fish. Well, thanks for coming along and learning with me, at least. Appreciate you joining us. I didn't even ask. What'd you catch that one on?
Little green pumpkin jig with a Zoom super chunk on the back of it. Got a little chartreuse on the pinchers. That'll be another one live right here. And like I said, don't be afraid to put it in that old trash and in that thick stuff. Worry about getting him out later. You know, first thing you got to get him on. Get in that hole.
So what's your preferred dye when you're adding that little extra flash of color on it? Stuff?
I like that chartreuse. You know, it looks a lot like a brim tail, and sometime with your crawdads, they'll get that color. The last couple of weeks, that orange has been good. I've swapped it around, especially with some of the deeper fish. I put a little orange on them, and the reason I got to noticing that in my live well when I cleaned it out, it was just full of orange shells in there. So I know, you know, the crawdads, that's about what they are right now. This in here in this grass, I think it's more of a brim type deal instead of on some of those harder deep bottoms.
All right, Jared, thanks for joining us, asking what lake we're on. We are on Neely Henry. about mid lake?
Mid-lake, heading down a little bit.
I would say beautiful, calm conditions, just not the greatest for putting fish in the boat.
Mm-mm. Yesterday, the best fish I caught midday and pitching back in the double stuff, you know, your double layer. Why back in there shallower, I don't know. Might have had a better shade to it. But you know, all the way back in that old thick stuff. And I guess I like it. You know, tournament fishing, it just drives you nuts. But I like to stick a big one way back in there and watch him come up, try to drag him through all that grass. Gets your heart thumping.
Sonny Khan said he came through this area on Tuesday. Just 4 dinks, worms, and jigs.
I was hoping he might have had a little better results.
Jared, you heading to Neely to go crappie fishing tonight? Is that your plan? Made a comment of, you got any recommendations for a guy coming out here to go crappie fishing tonight?
Probably canoe. Looking either some of those docks with a brush around it. You know, there's still some fish laying around these deeper docks. And then out there on that creek channel with some of those stumps and brush piles, just dropping minnows down there on them.
So if you're taking your wife out in Canoe Creek, maybe going crappie fishing
Yeah,
tonight
drop
wouldn't
a
be
few
bad idea.
poles out. Get on out and wet a line.
Michelle Thomas said no outflow till noon. I'm assuming you've been looking at the schedule.
Mm-hmm. So we got dead water through the whole deal. Ideal little patch of grass right here. I mean, got your good thick stuff with those holes in it. Got another piece of wood coming up here. So what we've learned today, how to catch them, is shaky head and wacky rig.
Apparently. Well, there've been a few comments going on about the fish being camera shy, so
Oh yeah, that's it.
that's always the way it works. You turn the camera on and but it sounds like about the average fishing conversation about how good they're biting on everything when nobody's
Yeah.
looking.
Well, eliminating water for tomorrow. See that minnow flipping around right there? Right in that middle of that grass, a minnow comes straight up top, just flipping. They don't do that for exercise. Right here.
So you're saying when you're seeing the minnow jumping around,
Something had pushed
they're
him
getting
up
away
top.
from something.
Yeah, something had pushed him up top. It's like a guy told me one time, he said, you see those minnows out there, flip, flip, flip? That's a happy shad. You don't have to worry about him. You see that minnow up there going, tch, 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 tch. Something's trying to get a hold of that tail for him. Come on, baby. Something rolling right there.
All right, let me catch up with a couple of questions here. Where are we? Kenny asked, we are on Neely Henry. Do you fish the grass all year?
No, when it gets the heat of the summer, that July and August, I may hit it for that first 30 minutes, if I get an early number. But I still fish shallow, but it'll be more wood cover. Boat docks, lay downs, things like that.
What do you think about Ned rigging?
It's really coming on. I've got some buddies of mine. I'm just trying to figure it out a little bit, but it's something different. I know some guys that are flipping docks with it right now and pitching up around some scattered brush and things like that, and they're catching a lot of fish with it. I don't know if it's just something they hadn't seen or if it's something that we're just tapping into that they feed on.
But Jared said, I took my boys to Neely last week. He caught fish on Ned rig immediately, all dinks, but he loved it.
Yeah. Woo, did you see that?
I missed it. I was reading comments.
It got my heart jumped. There's a gar about that long. I pulled it up and he thump. I'm glad he didn't get it. I didn't want to ruin my little jig. Got a bite. I saw that grass twitch and that line jumped, and all of a sudden that gar just eased on through. Moving shad. There's shad all out in front of this.
So do the gar and the largemouth hang out in some of the same areas? Or?
They're in the same areas, but they don't really like each other. Especially in the spring when those carp and gar are up there rolling and thrashing around those banks. They don't care much for it.
All right, what's your setup that you're using for the grass right now?
I've got a couple of different ones, and I hadn't even shown you with my punching rig. We hadn't really got into a lot of it, but I've got 1.25 ounce weight on here. That's a Jean LaRue tube. I got it dyed a little bit, and this is a luge. This is a 7/6 right here. Still got a little softer tip, and I'm throwing braid on all this. High speed reel, luge reel, high speed, but it takes a little bit to get used to flipping that bigger weight, because every time you try to flip, you're going to hit about right there. That heavy weight, nobody's used to it. It's like using long rods for crappie. It just takes you a little while to kind of get the hang of it. But when you got that thick stuff, that'll penetrate through there. Yes, sir.
Turn it around. We done, brother.
All right, man. Dadgummit.
That gun.
So
I'm the only one that's blank on this show.
That one didn't count for much.
Yeah, it does. Yes, it does.
Well, I'm already getting. Kenzie sent me some texts on some phone coolers. So,
There you go. I like that.
You know, you'd think 2 hours runs by pretty quick.
It does, doesn't it?
I mean, dadgum.
we're going to do a little wrap up here.
Yes, we are.
Can we get a little closer up to Dano?
All right.
So that folks can hear.
Folks at home, folks at home. That's what Mike and Ish say.
Yeah, folks at home. Folks at home.
Well,
See if my power poles work.
see if they work.
That one's giving me a fit.
Oh, okay. We gotta fix it.
Yep, still giving me a fit.
All right. Well, honestly, dude, Lee, I sitting here watching somebody who's been fishing this river his whole life. I learned a lot just watching you and listening, which is what this is all about. I know everybody stands here and goes, "Oh man, I only caught one fish," but it's invaluable information to see somebody who knows a river like this, who's won 2 Alabama Bass Trail tournaments on here this time of the year, May and June.
Mm-hmm.
It's invaluable. So don't think that it was a bad deal, because it's not. Sometimes it's almost better to hear the struggle than all the
Yeah.
success.
And like I said, every day's different. You know, that water come up 2 or 3 inches,
Yes.
and some things change, and we get some water moving.
Mhm.
Oh man, and it could happen at lunch. You know, they're saying they're going to cut that water on at lunch, get it moving. Things change, and that's one of the things that, being an angler, you got to kind of adapt and look for and move with it. And like I said, I know what can happen in this grass. You just got to have some other variables lock in there with you.
So I know that with 2 hours you're kind of locked in, and you got to kind of pick your spot. And you got to do what you're going to do,
Right.
and you got to be stubborn. But if you were fishing today, how would you have gone about today? What kind of moves would you have made? What kind of other things may you have tried? That kind of stuff.
The biggest thing, I would have probably left that grass for a while, especially when I saw those fish busting out there off the points. Just like several of the callers said, pick up a shaky head. You know, work that. The fish are knocking shad down.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to go to the bottom and pick up what they've knocked down. Have that shaky head. Maybe a DT6 or something, a smaller profile bait that I could scoop through there, stop it and twitch it around. Try to get, you know, some kind of a reaction bite. And probably gone to some deeper docks, looked at some of the poles, find those docks that's got brush under it, and then, but like I said, midday, I'd come back to this grass.
Current makes this kind of stuff better.
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Yeah, and the biggest thing is, the fish are there, but with that current, it's going to position them because they're ready to ambush prey then. They're ready to set up and set on the points, set in the little pockets. That way when the current's flushing that bait by, they don't have to exert a whole lot of energy to go out there and get, you know, they can run that far, get their meal, and just go sit right back down.
Instead of sitting in the current waiting
Yeah.
for it to come through.
Yeah.
But so you're looking at, when you're talking points, you're not necessarily just mean this point going into this canal. You mean the little points.
The grass
on
points,
lines.
grass points. And that's what I have a lot of people that go out and they fish with me, and I'll tell them, I said, I'm not just throwing blind. I'm looking for where the grass tapers out into that 10 inches more water, or where you got a grass line and a little bitty pocket in it that just does a half moon. That gives them something out of the ordinary, where when that bait's coming through, they can use those corners to ambush. That's what I'm looking for. Little troughs through there.
Well, first of all, from our perspective, thank you for being willing to share with our viewers.
Oh man, I enjoyed it. Like I said, I wish I'd caught some better fish.
Well, guys, Lee's known as the crappie guide. I call him the crappie king of Weiss Lake, but he is one heck of a bass fisherman, and he's a guide on Weiss Lake for bass and crappie. He's a guide for Neely Henry. He'll do some work on other lakes as well, but he is definitely worth picking a brain. There is a lot of knowledge there and a lot of fun. I've had some of my funnest days laughing and giggling on the water with Lee. So to all of you guys that pay attention to all this stuff, as always, thank you so much. We're gonna put these things on the trailer and go try to fix your power pole. How's that?
Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
Thanks for spending
I'm in
time
for
with
it.
us.
Guys, thank y'all for having me. Enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
It's our pleasure.
All right, guys. As always, thank you. And we'll see you next time. We're working on some good stuff coming up.
You can tell them. I don't care. We got.
We'll see.
wait.
We'll wait. All right, guys. We'll talk to you later. Hey, be careful out there. There's a lot of activity on the water. Please be safe and catch some big fish.